and welcome back for another review. I would have gotten up and changed clothes for my last review, but Nigel, you can't see him, but he's sitting on my lap, and I didn't want to disturb him. We're here with another book review for a book that didn't make me want to murder puppies, so that's exciting. I got this book actually from another booktuber that I watched. She was doing a video about standalone fantasy books, and I was like, gosh, I'm in the mood for one of those, and she recommended this one. If I can get my Goodreads to load, I'll read you the synopsis. But it's called The Warrior of the Wilds. How do you kill a god? As her father's chosen heir, 18-year-old Rasmira has trained her whole life to become a warrior and lead her village. But when her coming-of-age trial is sabotaged, and she fails the test, her father banishes her to the monster-filled wilderness to an impossible quest. To win back her honor, she must kill the oppressive god who claims tribute from the villages each year, or die trying. Short, sweet, to the point, and it's a standalone. More standalones, please. So, Warrior of the Wild. Like I said, it didn't disappoint me quite as much as other books. It still did disappoint me a little bit, but you know what? I'll take it. I'm not filled with rage. I still do have lots of thoughts, though. So right away, this book reminded me a little bit of my book, The Wolf and the Hawk, which is a fantasy romance that you can read right now. Go get it. It's on Amazon. Anyway, I'm not just saying this to plug my book. They are fairly similar, so if you liked my book, you might like this one. If you liked this one, you might like my book. You've got warrior women, you've got a sort of Viking-esque kind of setting, you've got a low magic world with monsters in it, but like no mages or spells or anything like that, so if that entices you, check out my book or this book, whichever one you haven't read yet. This one is less romance, although there is a romance in it, and it is like a fairly sizable portion of the plot. So right away, the world building is here, but there are some gaps that I wish we had filled in a little bit better. We have a series of villages living, it kind of reminded me of Berk from How to Train Your Dragon.
This is Berk. It's 12 days north of Hopeless and a few degrees south of freezing to death.
There's this village of sort of Viking-esque people. Actually, several villages. We don't know how far apart they are, but they do have like several different villages that all specialize in like different things. Like one of them does gems, one of them does food hunting. This one is a hunting one. But you wonder like, why are they there? Because every year they have to sacrifice a bunch of things, including a lot of their food, a lot of their gems, and even their daughters to this evil god. They have to go sacrifice things, and you're just like, why don't you move? Why don't you move? Clearly the god, like, hangs out in this forest. The wilds. Fucking move.
Most people would leave. Not us. We're Vikings. We have stubbornness issues.
Also, in this village, you kind of wonder, like, why do they only hunt? Why do they never try to farm? If they're so established, why aren't they farming? We don't really know what the weather is like in this world. Like, I pictured kind of cold and barren, but honestly, unclear. And the other piece of world building that kind of becomes a problem later is, at first, I don't know if women are warriors in this culture, because our main character is a woman and she is a warrior and she is in line to be the next chief. They have a very barbaric culture. A lot of their culture is based on like martial prowess, and if she is ever like challenged or threatened, she is expected to physically beat up the people who bully her, and that's completely normal. Like, nobody's like, why did you break his nose? She'd be like, oh, he said this and this about me, and they'd be like, yeah, that's fair. They're kind of Klingon-esque in that way. She's the only woman warrior we see, so we're like, why aren't other women warriors? Nobody questions that she is a woman warrior. She's just like doing her thing. So it was kind of a weird point, and we'll get into why that is a little bit more of a problem later. We have a lot of tropes. This book is very tropey, but it isn't ashamed of it. It wears its tropes on its sleeve and is like, if you don't like these tropes, too bad. So, of course, we begin with our coming-of-age ceremony, where she will essentially be put into the warrior caste in their society. And to do that, they have to kind of go through this, like, maze where several monsters have been set loose, and they each have to kill at least one monster. Which is cool and all, but it makes me wonder, like, obviously there aren't only warriors in the society, because it talks about, like, healers and craftsmen and stuff. What are their coming-of-age ceremonies like? Do you have to, like, weave one basket within the time limit? I'm also curious, like, there is a lot of mention of gems in this society, and people are jewelers and stuff like that, but I'm like, first of all, they're all starving because the god keeps taking most of their meat from their hunts. Second of all, who is buying this jewelry? What is their money? What is their economy? What is their system? You know, do people just make the jewelry because? Unclear, but jewelry makers is another caste within their society. So obviously we know that the main character's coming of age thing, she was sabotaged by some bad bullies. Of course there are bullies. And her whole family sucks. Like, her dad is just using her, her mother hates her, her sisters are bratty. She's got one sister who is kind and loving, and is the only reason, like, that one sister gives her a reason to want to go back to this village. Because if I was this main character, and I got banished for failing my trial, I would be like, fuck you, I'm never coming back. I'm gonna go see what's on the other side of the wilds. But this character is obsessed with getting back home, with fulfilling her mission and getting back home. Because when you're banished, you're given an impossible task at which it is assumed you will die, so that you just, like, stay banished. But if you can perform the impossible task, you'll be allowed to return. People don't usually do that, because the tasks are unwinnable most of the time, such as she's supposed to go kill a god. But like I said, if I was her, I'd be like, fuck you people, I'm gonna go see what's beyond these wilds. So we have more tropes. I just wrote down the tropes as I found them, so maybe these tropes will be a big win for you. I'm kind of ambivalent to all of them. But if some of these are tropes that you absolutely love, you might love this book, because like I said, it's not ashamed of these tropes in the slightest. It just goes right ahead. So we have the crabby pants main character, we have life debts, like she saves somebody and then he's like, I owe you a life debt. I'm your servant from now on.
According to the Spike the Dragon Code, I owe you a life debt and must serve you.
Main character is the best TM, but everyone hates her and she has no friends. And the girl that continually says go away, but the boy who wears her down, which is supposed to be charming. But it's actually a little bit creepy, because she keeps being like, when she gets to the wilds, she finds these two other guys who are still alive out there. They've just been surviving. And one of them fancies her, and he keeps being like, hey, let's hang out. And she keeps being like, no, thank you. But he just keeps being pushy, and you know that it's gonna go from there. There are lots of fun monsters in the wilds for them to encounter and kill, so if you are a fan of that kind of low magic world where there are monsters, then this book might entertain you. I was kind of curious if anything was going to come of it, but it was never explained. In this world, in the villages, wood is useless. They make everything out of stone and metal because wood, as soon as you cut it, it like falls apart. It like rots like the next day. So you can use it in your fire, but that's it. So nobody uses wood for anything. But then they get out into the wilds and suddenly the wood stops doing that. And she can use wood for things. And I'm really confused why, and it's never explained. A lot of things about this world are explained as the book goes on, but not the things that I've already mentioned. Like, those are all things that have like blatant gaps in their explanation. Similar to in The Wolf and the Hawk, characters in this book are just gay. Like, they're incidentally queer characters. It's not a big deal. There's no giant coming out. I have heard a lot of queer people saying they want stories where characters are just allowed to be queer and nobody makes a big fucking deal about it. And that's this book. You know the character is gay, but it's not like, look at my gay character, woo-hoo-hoo. One thing I didn't like is that the main character was banished through no fault of her own. She was completely sabotaged. She was fine. I really wish that it had been something that she had done that contributed to her banishment. That would give her a lot more of a feeling of, I have to prove myself and come back. Because right now I'm like, you don't have to prove shit. You were completely sabotaged. It was out of your control. You could not win. But if she had done something, then it would have A, made her character a little bit more likable because we like characters who can make mistakes, and B, given her a reason that she felt like she really needed to prove herself by defeating this god and going back home. Because like I said, her home is terrible. Why would she want to go back there? Everyone hates her except her one sister. This is definitely the coming of age, becoming a leader story that younger Julian would have written, and has written, and may write again. But if you love that kind of story where not only is she having to figure out who she is, but she's having to come to grips with how to be a good leader, not just a leader who like yells at people and gives orders, but a good, caring leader, I think that you will enjoy this book. However, the main character suffers from not like other girls syndrome. Oh boy does she. And that's where we get into this little problem of like no other women warriors. Because in her village, you see her fighting right alongside the men and like no one brings it up, no one questions it, they're all used to her. nobody goes, oh, it's weird that the chief's heir is a woman. So I thought that women could be warriors in their culture. But later we kind of find out that no, she is unusual for being a woman warrior, which adds to her not like other girls-ness. And I think it would have been really easy to have other female warriors and take away that, like, not like other girls element to her. She could still be disliked for being the chief's daughter, for being a bossy boots, for being the one who is going to inherit and rule, and people could have been like, I don't like her, I don't want her to be my chief. That would have been fine. We don't need to also have it where no other women are warriors, she's the only one, and therefore she's even more special. And then her love interest can be like, oh, there's no other women like you, all the other women are like vapid and feminine and dainty, you're the only one who is big and strong. And I just don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like main characters who are like, I am strong, and other women who are not exactly like me are undesirable and... well, I mean, the boys want them, but the boys shouldn't want them because they're not strong like me. They're just, like, useless and girly. One thing I really wanted to see, not only with her having a better reason to want to go back to her village, but also, I really wanted her to have some aspiration. Like, she does want to lead, but kind of wishy-washy about it. She's like, I guess I could be the chief when I get back, when my father dies. No. I want her to be like, my father is a bad leader. He banished me out here. He's using me for his own ends. I am going back, and I am taking over. I am going to be the new chief whether he's dead or not. I'm going to kill this god. I'm going to bring this god's head back and be like, who is your chief now? It is me. I really, really would have loved it if she had had some kind of ambition like that. Maybe some people would have found that that made her an unlikable hero, but I would have liked her more. And finally, the evil god. I really appreciated that this book did not go down the path that pretty much every other book goes down, where you would expect her to go out, find the evil god, and then fall in love with him. This book does not do that. There is a love interest, but he is not the evil god. He is a reasonably nice boy, and I appreciate that. However, the evil god was the most interesting character. I wanted to find out more about him. You do find out more about him at the end, but that, like, not from him. He is just evil. I was like, oh, please, let him be deeper. He does not have to turn out to be a good guy. We can still defeat him in the end, but please let me find out more things from him. I don't care if it's a villain monologue, like, because he's the most interesting character here. He's the most unusual, he's the most different. Honestly, I would have read a book where she, like, wants to ally with him, not as a romance, but, like, she goes out there and she's like, fuck my village, they banished me, it's stupid. Let's be friends. Evil god? Would have loved to see it. Not a romance, just, like, allying with this guy. And then finally, she gets back to the village and she makes a ruling on the people who betrayed her. But first she's like, these banishments are cruel and unusual punishment. We will no longer be sending people out to do these impossible tasks. They almost always die. It's stupid, it's deadly, it's cruel. But then she banishes the people she doesn't like. She doesn't tell them they have to slay any monsters while they're out there, but she just basically does the same thing that was done to her, to them. But at least she dealt with the deadly god. There are certainly lots of other monsters out there, but obviously this is a very straightforward book, so you can guess all of the beats. It's the details, obviously, that make it interesting. So if you're looking for an earnest little book that is not trying to break the mold, it's not trying to do anything unusual, but it's a little standalone that you can just consume and then go on with your life, this might be the book for you. I thought it was fine. I gave it 3 stars, which is fine. The book is fine. Not amazing, just okay. The writing itself was serviceable. Not good, not bad, just there. Told the story. But those are my thoughts of Warrior of the Wild. Have you read it? Let me know down below, or if you plan to read it. Like I said, if you read my book, you might like this one, and vice versa. I have lots of other book reviews here on this channel, so if you liked what you saw here, there's more to be seen. Or you can pop on over to my Patreon, where there's even more content not seen here on the regular channel. Look, I can keep you busy for a long time if you want something to listen to while you wash the dishes or do chores. Like, I can hook you up. You want to talk about books and writing? this is the place to be. With also a healthy amount of sarcasm. Kind of makes me wonder if there's an unhealthy amount of sarcasm. And if I have it. Anyway, thanks so much for watching. I will see all of you again next time with whatever it is I happen to be doing next time. Bye!
I'm as poor as a church mouse that's just had an enormous tax bill on the very day his wife ran off with another mouse, taking all the cheese.
Well, thank goodness I have patrons. Patrons like Ashley, Sophia, Merween, Kit, Hiddenglade, Persephone, Light Julie, Anna, Belle, Anne Sophie, Callison, Ray, Shelby, Zaire, Jesper, Irene, Scribbling Cat, Savvy, Jenny, Amanda, Lisa, Sarah, and Lennox. Thanks again for all your support, everyone. I am my mother's savage daughter, the one who runs barefoot, cursing sharp stones. I am my mother's savage daughter. I will not cut my hair, I will not lower my voice.